Action.
It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interview. Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Rose, hands up. Yes! Caught! Touchdown! They did it!
Welcome on into the Full Court Press second hour here on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM The Fan. Streaming online at 1069thefan.com and on the 1069 The Fan mobile app. And available on our podcast feed on 1069thefan.com or wherever you get your podcast. Just search for the Full Court Press. Jason Walker, Eric Frandsen, J.D. Walker here on a Friday edition of the Full Court Press. Talking Utah State basketball in the first hour. You can hear from Jared Calhoun, Jordy Barnes, previewing tomorrow's matchup against South Florida. A solid team, but one that you can, if the Aggies play at their best, they should beat and should beat comfortably. But I said that about Wyoming, and they won that game by 3 points. So you got to actually play the game and play it well, or the Aggies may have to win ugly. And if they win ugly, I guess, a win is a win. That's what Jordy Barnes said.
Right.
And they would advance to a program best 10-0 start. They've never done it before.
Incredible. Really incredible. And I know, and we've kind of touched on this before, there's some Aggie fans that are like, well, yeah, of course. This should come to no surprise that Utah State's doing well. But you have to recognize this really is unique. I mean, Coach Calhoun's doing a great job. And this team is doing fantastic. But it is so significantly rare to have a program go through so many different coaches in a short amount of time and still perform at a very high level. Eventually, there's going to be a drop-off when you do that, but it hasn't hit. Utah State continues to find great coaches, and they continue to succeed. So I hope fans don't get salty when other people from the outside are like, oh, this Utah State looks for real. Like they're doing good things here. And they are for real. They are doing good things. And we should appreciate that, yes, this is unique and this is special. And I hope we have a good crowd on Saturday despite the students being done with their finals.
Yeah, we definitely packing it. I saw Dallin Wilson, the president of the Herd, earlier today, telling students, wait to go home to see your parents. We need you at the Spectrum. Also asking for the community to show up and to come out and support our undefeated Aggies. And I think it's kind of... we come to expect it with the turnover that's happened here and we don't rebuild, we reload up at the Spectrum. But once you get outside of Sardine Canyon and Logan Canyon out there a little bit, there are a lot of people looking and going, how do they keep doing this? How does this program continue to maintain this high standard? And they're just baffled because they see their guys, they go through the ups and downs, the cycles of being competitive and then having to rebuild after your guys move on or graduate. And Utah State just kind of seems to be immune to that. And I don't ever want to take it for granted because I hope it's the way things go from here on out. But, heaven forbid it's ever not the case.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's why, people are commenting on the Aggies being a surprise. It's because they're defying convention. Convention is you lose a coach and you lose several of your key players. You lose a conference player of the year. You lose another first team all conference player. Oh, well, if you're good next season, if you win 20 games, well, then that's a decent surprise. The Aggies are defying convention in every way. They did it last year with Danny Sprinkle. That's why Danny Sprinkle was, at least in some circles, a coach of the year candidate, but because he coaches in the Mountain West, he's ineligible, not functionally, or not technically, but functionally ineligible because they only give it to Power 5 coaches. But, Jared Calhoun, he's managing to do similar to what Danny Sprinkle did last year. Not quite to the same extreme because he did benefit from having guys like Isaac Johnson, Mason Falslev, and Ian Martinez return. But, it speaks volumes that if they win tomorrow, it'll be the first ever 10-0 start. Danny Sprinkle didn't do it. Craig Smith didn't do it. Stu didn't do it. Liddell Anderson didn't do it. Like
Odom didn't do it.
Yeah, all these great and even legendary coaches didn't do what these Aggies are maybe about to do. I stress maybe because they almost did it in 2022 and then they lost to Weber State, who was in like the 250s in the net at the time. So like you can't guarantee, just because South Florida isn't highly ranked doesn't mean the Aggies can't lose, because they've already been in this situation before and blew it. Granted, they still made the NCAA tournament that season, where a conference contender or whatnot. It's not the end of the world if they don't start 10-0, but it's not a guarantee. And I think that's something that hopefully the Aggies will understand. They haven't learned the lessons that losses teach them yet. And hopefully they can do a bit of homeschooling without actually getting the loss.
I like that, homeschooling. It was just, we don't need to learn that lesson until 2026. Let's just go that. We'll just keep running the way it's going. It's kind of crazy. I wonder, guys, when do we start treating it like a no-hitter in baseball? We don't sit near the Aggies on the bench, and we don't mention what's going on.
Stop asking the coach.
Yeah, stop asking the coach about the undefeated streak. Do we reach that point of superstition in college basketball with the Aggies at any point?
If they get to like 15-0, we'll probably stop asking.
Okay, all right. That's nice. That means wins over San Diego State and St. Mary's, and at that point, we should probably all just hush and just
don't say anything, and they won't lose.
Just keep it quiet.
Losing? Never heard of her. So let's take a look at the rest of the Mountain West in basketball. You know, speaking of losing, the rest of the Mountain West. Just kidding.
Oh,
shots fired. Of course, there's some teams that have taken losses, but they're still fantastic teams. Teams like San Diego State, who's lost twice, but is actually ranked ahead of the Aggies in KenPom. They're not ahead in the net, which net hasn't liked San Diego State that much. They're still in the 40s in the net, I want to say.
I've got it up right now.
Of course, they're 43rd in KenPom. Utah State's 50th in KenPom.
San Diego State is currently 47 in the net.
Whereas they have the Aggies at like 21st, I believe, last I checked.
Yes.
We've also got Nevada and Boise State in the 40s and 50s in KenPom. So it's not like Utah State's, they're on an island in terms of being undefeated, and the next closest team in record has 2 losses. But there are obviously some other great teams. But let's look at the Mountain West and what they're doing this weekend. Because there are a lot of teams in action this Saturday from the Mountain West, not just the Aggies.
And there's one notable game that's pretty spicy that we're paying attention to.
Spicy.
And it's not played. It's in a neutral site, but it will still be friendly to the home team. The
neutral site in
team.
Air quotes.
Yes. It's Boise State taking on St. Mary's. It's going to be played in Idaho Falls. So it's a 7:00 tip. But this could be pretty interesting tomorrow night at 7:00. I don't know if they have seats available, but conceivably you could go to the Aggie game, and when that's done, you could get in your car and head a few hours north and go check out that game too if you really wanted.
$30 looks like to see St. Mary's. That's a marquee matchup to make that trip up there.
Yeah, shouldn't be that bad. And yeah, this will be a game for Boise State, I think, to kind of reassert themselves as one of the best in the Mountain West, because they came in as the preseason favorite. They have the Mountain West preseason player of the year. And through the first about 6 or so games of the season, they had a pretty solid resume. They did lose to San Francisco, but they beat Clemson, who was a good team. They beat them by 13. So they beat them pretty handily. But then in their last 3 games, they've struggled a bit. They lost to Boston College, 155 in KenPom, and they lost KenPom, this is a semi-home game, the neutral site game where they were close by. Was this also in Idaho Falls?
Which game?
The one against Washington State says it was played at the Idaho Central Arena, which when I look at a picture of it shows a hockey.
Oh, that's in Boise, but it's not at the Taco Bell or whatever they call it.
They basically lost a home game to Washington State.
Wow.
But it counts as a neutral site game. Boise State had some really clever scheduling where they play home games that aren't counting as home games. Because, they played Washington State in this essentially home game, lost by 5, close game against a good Washington State team. And now they're playing St. Mary's, an even better team. And it should be a close one. If Boise State wins, which they have every capability of doing this, they have a good team, then they can kind of reassert themselves right before conference play, saying, hey, look, yeah, we've lost a couple of games recently, but we are still one of the best teams in the conference. And this is, I think, their chance to really reestablish themselves up there with San Diego State and Utah State, who have kind of claimed that top tier of the conference, and they'd very much join back up with a win against St. Mary's.
And can you imagine the men's basketball team for Boise State tomorrow night realizing that nobody is going to be paying attention to them? Nobody. Everybody's going to be focused on Ashton Genty in New York and the Heisman announcement tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I'm not even sure anybody realizes that the Broncos are going to be playing tomorrow. But, yeah, I'm fine with them being the preseason champions of the Mountain West and the preseason, player of the Mountain West and everything. I just like the Aggies to be the, the postseason, the regular season conference championship and stuff. But, yeah, the disrespect on the rankings and everything and seeing how Boise's come out, it kind of makes the preseason prognostications like a bad weather forecast sometimes when you look at it. But this is the matchup. This is the stick. We'll see St. Mary's against Boise, and then we can do what we do as analysts and try to compare that to the Aggies and how that matchup's going to come up down the road. So
that's what we do here on Talk Radio.
There's a number of teams that are playing in neutral sites.
Well, before we get to that real quick, I want to get some text from 9015. I think he was talking about the South Florida game, saying make the game an ice-out game, saying is it against the rules to turn on the AC in the Spectrum? Then said, I forget, I'm not 100% sure what he was referring to in this text, saying with this factor of lots of different coaches, with this factor of lots of different coaches and a new one this year, should it play into a factor that benefits this year's team to be ranked? Unfortunately, that's not what AP voters look into.
No, it makes a nice story, but does it mean you're ranked?
Yeah.
No.
Like I said, the criteria for being ranked in the AP are being lots of wins. Helps you get a head start if you're a power conference team, but you need lots of wins and or beat a ranked team. Those are your options.
Yep.
They might write a nice story about you, but then half of the AP voters won't rank you.
Yeah. 8968 texting in, when people are camping on the Aggies on their schedule, it has to be remembered that this schedule is hard as they have usually played. Other years, the Aggies have played the same strength and not come out as well.
Yeah, they're playing a decent schedule. The problem is that people say, that you don't have the well-known names. You don't have a bunch of power conference teams. They have Iowa's the only power conference team, and they've not yet. They do have St. Mary's on their schedule, but they look at North Texas and they say, that's not anybody good. They look at St. Bonaventure, that's not anybody good. And then you see Utah Tech and Alcorn, and they think, that's a bad schedule. But it's like all the other schedules the Aggies have had, solid mid-major teams. And sure, it's not a sexy schedule, but it's one that you look at the analytics and you look at how good the Aggies eventually perform, they're proving themselves against the schedule they have.
5338 also texting in, preseason champions do not receive any hardware.
No, they do not. And Boise State should know that pretty well. They struggle to get any postseason hardware.
Yes.
Even though they get a decent amount of preseason love from the conference.
You just watch 2025, 2026. There's going to start to be preseason trophies.
But yeah, a number of circling back to the conference schedule, a number of these games are being played in neutral sites. Besides Boise State hosting St. Mary's and Idaho Falls, you got BYU is taking on Wyoming, so it's kind of reviving an old WAC and Mountain West rivalry there in basketball. That game's going to be played at the Delta Center, 7:00 on Saturday night on ESPN Plus. Really, that's the only game on national television, which is surprising.
Well, when you have such powerhouse matchups as New Mexico and Western New Mexico, I don't know that that's a super attractive national TV market.
Yeah, probably not.
The St. Mary's Boise game not being on national TV, that's a little surprising.
Yeah, that's the one that surprises me. But then another neutral site matchup is VCU, Coach Odom, taking on Colorado State. That game will actually be played in Henderson, Nevada. and going up against a former Mountain West team.
Where the heck is Henderson?
Where are they?
at?
Henderson's
in Las Vegas area.
Henderson, Las Vegas are the same.
So it's just a suburb.
Yeah, you can't tell where it ends, but
Lee's Family Forum. Do you know where that is?
I lived in Vegas for 18 years, guys. No clue.
It's like I've been to the most remote places of Nevada.
I mean,
but
I
I've
know
never been there.
the Lee's family is Lee's Discount Liquor in Vegas. It's huge. So, I mean, they may have built a farm there for him. I don't know.
Must have. They built.
It's the home of the Henderson Silver Knights of the American Hockey League.
So it's the Golden Knights minor league team. So they're going to throw some hardwood over the ice and get it going.
What is it with Mountain West teams and playing in minor league hockey arenas?
Yeah, because that's what Boise's doing.
That's just weird.
Yeah.
They've apparently done it a couple times now.
Yeah, it's true because they did it in Boise too. Not on campus, but they did it in the other arena in the state.
Yeah, for Colorado State, they're a team that is kind of stumbling and doing it quickly. They're on the precipice of falling down the stairs or something like that because they're a team that has been a conference contender, or at least kind of in that discussion. For the last 5 or so, however many years Isaiah Stevens was on their team. And he's finally gone, and they brought in a lot of transfers, hoping to kind of maintain that success, pass the torch to Nate Clifford. And my goodness, is Nate Clifford balling out? Dude's averaging like 17 points and 11 rebounds and like 3 or 4 assists on the side. Like, dude is balling out. And he's also one of the best defensive players in the conference. But the team is still 5-4, and they're picking up some losses, and they're not looking impressive in their wins or losses. And VCU is a tough opponent, so this is a chance to maybe turn things around a little bit, learn those lessons from the losses, and maybe figure things out, get a win against a good opponent. At least you're closer to this neutral site, although it's still quite a drive.
Yeah, and VCU still has Max Schulga as one of their top players.
He's like in his 5th year.
Yeah.
He's playing pretty well as well, last I checked.
You already mentioned New Mexico, Western New Mexico. That's in the pit.
Fantastic matchup. That'll be the best game of the.
Fresno State hosting San Diego. That's in Fresno. And then San Jose State hosting Cal Poly. Those teams have similar records.
Should be a close game. I don't know if it'll
be close. Yeah,
I don't know if it'll be a sexy matchup, but it's 2, 5, and 6 teams.
Nevada hosting Texas Southern, and then UNLV hosting Pacific. At 8:30 on Saturday night.
Yeah, UNLV, another team that's struggling where like they had higher expectations. They did lose a lot, but you bring back Dayton Thomas Jr., freshman of the year. I believe injury because he had a sprained ankle or something like that, I think, in the preseason. So I think that's holding them back. But it's kind of interesting to look at where he and JT Topham were like freshmen of the year, like and they were dominant. And it was no question they were the top 2 freshmen. And Mason Falslev was there kind of like, in most other years, Mason Falslev would have won freshman of the year. But he happened to be a freshman the same year that Dayton Thomas and J.D. Toppin were, so it just kind of sucks there. But Mason Falso's taken a big jump, and Dayton Thomas hasn't really taken that big of a jump. Now, injury, I think, has made an impact there, but it kind of goes to show that Mason can make a big jump and be one of the stars, even if he wasn't the superstar right away.
If you guys are looking at the Mountain West Conference standings right now, I know there's only a couple teams that have played a conference game. Anything surprising you as we look at this part as we're in early December for the college basketball season? Any team surprising you either in a good way or maybe in a bad way?
Out of the Mountain West?
Yeah.
I think with Jason, I'm with Colorado State.
And UNLV.
And UNLV, yeah. Those two are probably the most where you'd expect them to be, if they have as good a coaching as they allege.
And as good of players.
Then they should be better. Now, Colorado State has had some injury to significant player, Nate Clifford, and he's had to try to work through some of that. He's missed some games. But I would expect them to be a little bit more competitive than they have been. Outside of that, I don't know that I have too many other surprises. Maybe Nevada could have been a little bit better with their record, but they're not bad. So I think just Colorado State and UNLV are the two that surprised me the most.
Yeah, basically outside of them, everyone is exactly where I pretty much expect them to be. Expected the Aggies to be near the top. I mean, the Aggies being at the top and 9-0, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't at least a little bit surprised by that. But the fact the Aggies and San Diego State and New Mexico are all at the top. Nevada and Boise have taken some some losses, but they've lost to good teams mostly. I think Nevada had a bit of a surprising loss, and Boise a somewhat surprising loss, but not like catastrophically bad. So they're still really good teams. But yeah, it's looking like Colorado State and UNLV aren't going to help make up like what was a robust top 7 last year. You had 7 teams that were all like, in the last week and a half of the season, there were 7 teams I think had a chance of the Mountain West title, mathematically at least, which is crazy. And this year, it seems like it's going to be a top 5, most likely. It's to be honest, even possibly might end up with the top 3 or 4. It's not going to be the Mountain West isn't going to be as deep, but
no. Colorado State, just looking at their record, they lose to Ole Miss, which is a ranked team, and they lose by a wide margin. Then this is the one that's surprising. They lose a close game to UC Riverside. They lose to Washington by 6 points, and then they beat TCU, and they beat Loyola Marymount, a team that beat one of the other teams we were talking about
Nevada.
But then they face Colorado, and they lose in embarrassing fashion. So it's kind of been an up and down yo-yo season for the Rams so far.
Yeah, so that's a team that kind of needs to be able to fulfill their potential a little bit more. They might have it. I'd have to get a chance to see them a little bit more than I have. And then UNLV, you'd hope they are just not. They're not just Dayton Thomas, but I thought they had some guys to be able to replace, like the Boone brothers. They lost them. I thought they had guys to replace them. They have Rob Whaley. They had the transfer from Oklahoma who was injured all of last year coming back. I would have thought UNLV would have been better.
Three game losing streak for them. Sorry, Eric.
Yeah, but those losses, look at UNLV's losses. Memphis by only 6. They did lose by a wide margin to a top 25 ranked Mississippi State. Mm-hmm. Some similar themes here. They lose to Northwestern by 5, and they lost to Creighton by a good margin. So the teams that they're losing to are good programs or good teams. And some they've been competitive in and some they haven't. So jury still may be a little bit out on UNLV as to really what type of program they're going to be this year.
Yeah, they were also a team that kind of came on late last year.
Yeah,
where their record was pretty iffy, but then they played spoiler to a few teams.
Right, and they will also play UC Riverside here actually next weekend. So their schedules and Nevada's schedules have a lot of similarities.
Did Nevada play UC Riverside?
Oh, excuse me, Colorado State. Colorado State played UC Riverside.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a quick break. And we come back. We mentioned Blake Anderson and Kyle Cefalo. Let's actually finally get around to talking about that a little bit, where 2 guys were out of a job, one a little bit sooner than the other. But they've both found a new home. So we'll talk about that next here on the Full Court Press.
Over the past few years, strong and crazy weather patterns have battered various parts of the country. Northern Utah and southern Idaho are not immune from its share of wild weather. Be prepared for power outages with a Generac backup generator from Golden Spike Electric. They are your local source for Generac sales and service. Generac keeps you in control when bad weather strikes. Golden Spike Electric, powering your peace of mind. Online at gsegenerators.com or call 257-3016. They also service other models.
This is Ryan at My Mattress. We've been thinking about what you're going to get each other for Christmas, and we want to help out a little bit. Jewelry. The bling is cool, but didn't you do that recently? USU season tickets. No. Well, maybe. And if you do, call me. We'll go together. A hot tub. Yeah, they're cozy for 30 minutes, but let me suggest something that'll keep you cozy and supported and help your day go better. A mattress at My Mattress. The best time of the year to buy is right now. Come in today and sleep better tonight. The best Christmas gift possible.
As the year comes to a close, we at Aegis Healthcare want to take a moment to express our heartfelt gratitude.
To our incredible staff, thank you for your dedication, hard work, and passion. You make everything we do possible.
To our wonderful community, thank you for your trust and support. You're the reason we continue to grow and thrive.
This holiday season, we wish you and your loved ones joy, peace, and warmth. Here's to cherished moments in a bright new year ahead.
Happy holidays from all of us at Aegis Healthcare.
We look forward to serving you in the year to come.
It's the Full Court Press, weekday afternoons from 4 to 6 on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Full Court Press. Top analysis and always 100% accuracy. 6391 pointing that out, saying, I appreciate that Eric called it the Delta Center and not just Delta Center.
I must have had a moment of weakness.
It's the Delta Center or the Delta Center. I don't know. I forget which one. I know we had this discussion like 2 months ago.
If you listen to the official broadcasts, they have been trained to just say Delta Center. Not to say that just because that's what they say, that's what we should say, but it seems to be from the top how they want it referred.
It's important branding. Apparently, Ohio State stole the so they could use it for the Ohio State. They stole it from the Delta Center.
Can we focus on branding the club overall and not worry about the can we worry about the hockey club first and then we'll worry about
I don't know. I got to worry about the crime I might accidentally commit if I accidentally flag plant on Ohio State's field. I'm making a felony. Something I might accidentally end up doing is.
Can you imagine how many people are going to be arrested on 4th of July when they're just putting the flags in the grass just to decorate the community and a bunch of felonies now in Ohio.
There you go. Can't do the flag planting. I just gotta love that. Speaking of football, got Blake Anderson, Kyle Cefalo, two now former coaches at Utah State. Both have found new homes. We haven't heard anything about Nate Dreiling, if he's found a home yet. He's not said anything. He certainly said his goodbyes to the Utah State fandom and leaving with a lot of goodwill between him and the Utah State fandom for what Nate Dreiling kind of had to go through, picking up the pieces after Blake Anderson was fired and doing as much as he could with his team. But Anderson, he's suing the Aggies, or specifically Utah State University, and also some particular individuals like Diana Sabo and a couple of others at Utah State. He's suing them because he said he's unemployable in college football, saying nobody would hire him, even citing some, sort of specific examples where he said he was trying to get a job and they wouldn't hire him because of what happened to Utah State. Or
if they did, they couldn't. Yeah, couldn't publicize the fact that he
would
was
basically
on their staff.
He basically do some anonymous or analyst stuff. But he is getting a job. He is going to be the offensive coordinator at Southern Miss, a place he was actually at before. He was first hired in 2008 at Southern Miss to be their run game coordinator and quarterbacks coach, which is an interesting combination. Run game coordinator and quarterbacks coach, or something like that.
Yeah, they seem a little bit different, but that's okay. But an offensive-minded guy.
Yeah, but then he was promoted to being their offensive coordinator and QB coach, and actually was pretty successful at that. They went 12-2 at Southern Miss, and then he followed Larry Fedora to North Carolina, and then he kind of continued his coaching career. I think it was after North Carolina he went to Arkansas State, I think. I'm pretty sure that's what he did after that. But now, going back to Southern Miss, where he found a pretty decent amount of success. Their new head coach, I forgot his name, and I didn't write it down in my notes. But they just barely got a new head coach. They went 1-10 or 1-11 last season.
Charles Huff.
Yeah, Charles Huff. Yeah, their old head coach got fired, so they're bringing in Charles, and Blake Anderson will be the offensive coordinator. So, said he's unemployable, but he just got a job.
He's got a new destination.
Which I know that the lawsuit's going to kind of exaggerate that, but I figured he would land an offensive coordinator or at worst quarterback coach job, or maybe he's been a wide receiver coach as well. Figured he'd land some kind of job and not a head coaching job. I didn't think that was in the cards.
Yeah, too soon for that.
Unless he went down to the FCS level, but an FBS offensive coordinator job, I felt, was very much in the cards, and that's what he's got.
Yeah, I honestly thought he'd end up somewhere as an analyst first, and then get back into the coaching as a coordinator. But looks like he tried the analyst route, but now he is going to be a coordinator.
I wonder if he was an analyst at Southern Miss, and that's.
May have been.
I mean, I don't have any sort of that. I feel like it wouldn't be too much of a coincidence to imagine that if he was like that, working behind the scenes, and then now he's the offensive coordinator.
Elevated position. Yeah, who knows? But will he ever be a head coach again? Probably. But he'll basically have to earn his stripes again.
Yeah, that's kind of the way it goes. Like if you're ever involved in something that's kind of a bit of a public scandal, then yeah, you gotta go that route. I know the old route used to be being an offensive or defensive analyst under Nick Saban. That's like a lot of the really good coaches.
Yeah.
Resurrected a lot of careers that way.
Yeah, basically. So didn't Sarkisian do that or something like that?
Yes, he did.
Is it
Lane Kiffin.
Lane Kiffin, like on his ninth life or something like that?
Something like that.
Saban?
Where's he at these days?
Ole Miss.
Is Ole Miss?
Lane
Okay,
Miss,
that's what I was thinking. So, yeah, sometimes you just got to fall down a few rungs in the coaching ladder. Hopefully you don't hit them too hard on the way down.
Another one is Nick Rolovich, who got a controversy when he was at Washington State over COVID shots and whatnot. I think that a lot of that was overblown. He ended up getting fired from that position, and he's kind of been on the lam. But sounds like he is headed to, well, it's official. He's going to Cal as well, along with Kyle Cefalo. And another former coach that has connections to Arkansas State, Brian Harsin. So that's an interesting offensive staff that's being put together at Cal.
Yes, they're putting that together. Kyle Cefalo not retaining his offensive coordinator position. He's going there to be a wide receivers coach.
Brian Harsin, the former Boise State coach, he will be the offensive coordinator. Cefalo will be the wide receivers coach. Rolovich will be an offensive assistant coach. Cal's senior offensive assistant coach, though what positions he'll be coaching is a little uncertain.
Yeah.
Cal's got a history of putting out NFL talented quarterbacks. And so Coach Cefalo being the wide receivers coach there, I expect to see an uptick of the production from the wide receivers group. And that, we saw what he's done here for the Aggies. But also, Coach McGivern, he did something pretty cool this past season. I don't know. That Travis Hunter guy is taking all these awards, but that Nick Nash guy out at San Jose State, winning the Triple Crown in college football for being a receiver, I mean, I feel like the Aggies are going to continue the excellence that's been set in the wide receiver room. And this is just a short stop for Coach Cefalo. He has success there with the wide receivers at Cal. He's going to be an OC somewhere.
He'll be an OC. Yeah, this will really help his resume.
Yeah. I was trying to think, who are the Cal quarterbacks who've gone to the NFL? I know there's Aaron Rodgers. I was trying to think of some of the others.
Jeff, if I remember back in the day, Jeff Treadford went down and was the coach there, and they kind of started just pushing people in with that Marshawn Lynch, Aaron Rodgers. They had quarterbacks go in. Aaron Rodgers is kind of the high, but they've had great quarterbacks come through there at Cal and continuing that tradition with some of the guys they have on the roster now.
Yeah, I know they've...
Cefalo works his magic with that wide receiver room. We've seen what he's done here with Jalen and company. Wow, it could be huge. And Cal's got a lot of resources for their coaches too.
Yeah, and so hopefully the Aggies will be able to figure out what they've got with McGivern. I'm kind of interested. I was really interested with McGivern and if they can get Emmett Brown up here at Utah State. I know some people are really sold on Bryson Barnes, but I don't know. I want Doc Brown up here.
The flux capacitor and 88 gigawatts or whatever. The comments and gifs will go crazy, but he would be great for Doc Brown.
I was really proud of the internet when there was the comment about him going in the transfer portal and all the replies and quote tweets. It's all just Doc Brown gifts from Back to the Future. So
yeah, he's a really good quarterback. So not besides the name, I mean, we had fun with that. He's a really good quarterback.
Yeah, he was balling out. It was weird because I thought he just gotten injured because I happened to notice since Utah State didn't play San Jose State this year, I didn't pay super close attention to the Spartans, but I noticed they switched quarterbacks, and it was I suddenly forget his name, but Emmett Brown, he got benched against Nevada. He was having he was putting up 300 and high 200-yard games on the regular the first 4 or 5 games of the season, and then he's having a below average game against Nevada and he got benched. And then he basically didn't play most of the rest of the year, or at least didn't play any consistently. It's this dude is part of the reason that Nick Nash was was the guy who had 1,300 plus yards and the most receptions, most receiving yards, most receiving touchdowns. That guy was a big reason why that happened. He just kind of got benched because the offensive coordinator made that decision. Hopefully it wasn't McGivern who made that decision, because otherwise he's never coming to Utah State.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
But I wonder what that relationship would be like, and if he comes up here and has a battle with Bryson Barnes. The text line helping me out. I was asking who are the other great quarterbacks out of Cal, at least that have gone to the NFL. I know not all great quarterbacks in college are able to make the transition to the NFL, but 6391 and 5662 pointing out Jared Goff, who I had forgotten. Former number 1 overall pick and current Detroit Lion. So see if you can get to another Super Bowl. I enjoyed the first Super Bowl he went to. That was pretty nice. He didn't do so well in that one, though. He probably doesn't have as fond memories of that Super Bowl as I do. 9315 saying, Back to the Future, Doc shows up in a train at the end of the movie. I can jump on this hype train. There you go.
Yeah, okay.
See if Emmett Brown can lead the Aggie offense in the future. But obviously, that's just assuming that he would come here. We're kind of at the stage where everyone's entering the portal and nobody is leaving it. Because that's just, this comes in waves. Everyone complains and worries about the players that are leaving. And it's also just weird to see the number of playoff teams that are having guys enter the portal. I saw one today about a Georgia guy entering the portal. There was the Ohio State guy who said, I'm entering the portal, but I'm going to stick with the team through the playoffs. And I was just like, that's not how it works, buddy.
So weird.
Mateer is from Washington State. One of the big questions about it, and he hasn't entered yet, and he's still playing with the team. But it's one of those things. One of the numbers I saw was just absolutely baffling. As of yesterday, close to 2,600 Division I college football players have entered the portal. Now, I just went to the Google, and just to get a rough estimate, like 10,000 college football players. Talking about 25% of the roster. Is that? I don't even think any of the major sports have that big of a turnover in free agency and stuff. I mean, it's just mind-boggling to think how many student athletes are out there in the portal right now.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. I know the NFL has a decent amount of turnover, but even then, I don't think it comes that close as far as percentage. You at least keep most of your team. But yeah, it can be pretty insane.
Well, you think about 53-man roster, so roughly like 1,600. I mean, you can get the practice squad and all that stuff, but we're talking about that's like a whole NFL league worth of players. That's trying to find their future. Planning for college, I imagine, is a pretty big deal. Like where you're going to go and all the process. But they've only got a couple of weeks to figure this out and get everything settled. And I said it on X earlier. It feels like a game of musical chairs, and the music's going to run out. There's going to be some players that don't have a place to sit.
And that's what happens to so many players
every year.
There are players who enter the portal. Of course, a lot of guys are coached or just told to leave, essentially. Saying they're coached to enter the portal is kind of a nice way of saying coach told them to get out of town.
You're just not going to cut it.
And that's happening with the Aggies. Like, there have been multiple people who said online, like, basically, I was told to leave.
We saw a recruit today post.
Yeah, recruit basically saying, like, a guy who commits to Utah State, signs all the paperwork, new coach comes in and says, we don't want you. And so it's why you got to be, and I think most fans have pretty much got the message of don't be mad at a player for entering the transfer portal. Most have gotten that message. I've not really seen any Aggie fans go over. There's frustration that they leave, but not frustration at the players for leaving. But it is very much a two-way street. Players choose to leave for their own, looking out for number one, and coaches tell players to leave because their roster evaluation.
I just get bummed because I enjoyed rooting for these guys, invested in their stories, finding out who they are. We have Know Your Aggies, the interviews. You get to know these student athletes and invest in them. And yeah, bummed, but hope for great opportunities for them wherever they land, wherever they can find a spot to shine. And that's just kind of the downside now that you have this much turnover.
That's just the way it goes. I have my big spreadsheets every offseason trying to figure out who the roster, where they come from, how much eligibility they have left, how much they've played, trying to figure out as much as I can. And it's a yearly project.
Hey, I know we're up against a timeout, but maybe on the other side, can we get into the West Coast Conference Grand Canyon?
Yeah, let's dive into the drama. Yes, let's do that.
It's fun.
Eric's just sitting over here going, yes, the drama. Grand Canyon and the West Coast Conference. We'll talk about that next here on the Full Court Press.
Advanced Heating and AC, the gold medal winner in the Best of Northern Utah, is teaming up with Carrier Heating and Cooling. Carrier provides you with the best furnace units available. And now is the best time to buy a new unit before the weather turns Cache Valley cold. Financing options are available. Turn to the experts at Advanced Heating and AC and Carrier. Advanced Heating and Air Conditioning at 752-7272. Stop by their showroom west of DI. Online, advancedheating-ac.com.
It's back. Jarek's Fine Jewelry in Logan is having our annual Pick a Pearl event. If you've attended this in the past, you know how much fun we have. And if you haven't come before, you don't want to miss this exciting event. For only $10, pick your oyster, open it that day, or save it for that stocking stuffer surprise. Mark your calendar, Friday and Saturday, December 13th and 14th. Pick a Pearl at Jarek's Fine Jewelry, 930 North Main. Look for the bright green cars.
This is Kyle at Advanced Door, and we guarantee every garage door we install for a lifetime, parts and labor. That's every door, every spring, every roller, every track, every motor. The entire garage door system guaranteed for a lifetime, parts and labor. We're Advanced Door, and we guarantee you'll be hearing this for a long time. Find out more at advanced-door.com. That's advanced-door.com.
Breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interviews. It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
There is drama afoot in college athletics. Of course, it is important to make sure that we introduce this properly, this segment here.
We've got some significant breaking news tonight.
We got some breaking news.
The latest in conference realignment on the Conference Realignment and Expansion Show.
That's the name of the show. Yes. And this relates to conference realignment. So we mentioned this on the show the other day when it happened. It was 2 days ago, where the West Coast Conference mentioned they were taking legal action. So I'll read from their statement just to kind of clarify, or I'll kind of summarize because like two whole paragraphs. But essentially, in May 2024, Grand Canyon agreed to join the West Coast Conference, leave the WAC, and join the West Coast Conference. They would have joined effective July 1st, 2025. And that's, they made it public and it all that they were going to join the WCC. And then then the West Coast Conference, in their statement, they said less than 6 months later, GCU provided written notification to the West Coast Conference of its withdrawal as a member of the WCC to seek membership in another conference. And they said as part of the terms of the agreement signed by Mueller, they mentioned earlier, was the president of Grand Canyon. It says part of the terms of the agreement signed, GCU was required to pay the remaining balance of its entrance fee and the membership withdrawal fee outlined in the conference's constitution, each within 30 days of its written notice of membership withdrawal. And this statement kind of came out about 30 days after the news of Grand Canyon joining the Mountain West. And so since those 30 days are up, they're now suing Grand Canyon. Well, Grand Canyon provided their own statement in response to the West Coast Conference.
And in so throwing some shade on the West Coast Conference. So
I might add, the West Coast Conference was throwing shade earlier because they just randomly threw out that Grand Canyon Education is a publicly traded company.
Yeah, that's right. They're both throwing darts that have nothing to do really with the matter at hand, but they're trying to shade or color the opponent here in a certain light. And we shouldn't have trusted them because they are a for-profit entity, whatever. They don't do things very well. And then Grand Canyon, in their release, they're throwing shade too. So we'll get to that. It says they were disappointed to learn yesterday through a social media post that a lawsuit has been filed against us containing incomplete and incorrect allegations. And this is what I think is funny. We understand the disappointment in our decision to ultimately decline the WCC's invitation, and we empathize with their circumstances after also losing prominent members such as BYU and Gonzaga recently. It's like, yeah, well, no wonder you're salty. You lost BYU and you lost Gonzaga.
Yeah. But the thing is that I'm doing it again, calling them Green Cane instead of Grand Canyon. Their whole argument seems to boil down to, we weren't in the West Coast Conference yet, so we don't owe you anything.
Right. We don't owe. I mean, you could probably make some arguments about the entrance fee, but they certainly don't owe anything for an exit fee because they never did anything.
Yeah, but I mean, it depends on what's in all the contracts. I haven't looked or read any of the contracts. I've looked at Utah State's going to the Pac-12. Of course, I didn't look at what would happen if Utah State tried to backtrack on that. I can't imagine it would be pretty.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine Grand Canyon isn't really that strong of a legal, because it's probably all in, like, West Coast Conference are talking about all these legal arguments, like saying, we have it in the contract that says you have to do these things. And Grand Canyon's just like, nuh-uh.
Well, the other thing that's kind of funny is that the Grand Canyon statement is only 2 paragraphs. The second paragraph is entirely devoted to this whole thing about being an affiliate of Grand Canyon Education. And characterizing Grand Canyon University as an affiliate is grossly inaccurate. And anyway, they give more detail as to why that is, but
yeah, they're just trying to draw attention
really
away from
that.
They're just trying to draw attention away from the fact that they're a for-profit university, but it's entirely a response to the one sentence from the West Coast Conference's initial statement, where he mentions them being an affiliate of Grand Canyon Education, and that's the publicly traded entity.
Yeah, they're firing their last shot, their final thought here. The mention of GCU's agreement with a successful education services provider is both odd and irrelevant to any conference affiliation for the university.
I like how they had to throw in successful. Because you're describing a diploma mill as successful.
It's so refreshing to me that knowing that after the national presidential election, the heads of the Democratic and Republican National Committee both have found jobs on other sides of this battle, and they're going back and forth. Doesn't it sound like a political smear ad back and forth that they're doing? I mean, a little bit nicer, but they're taking shots at each other. It's nice to see that the politicians have found something to do post-election.
This is basically the public relations version of those like diss tracks. Like that's basically what this is.
I was thinking like a third grade playground dispute with my dad can beat up your dad, but
yeah, it's you yell away from that. You got the diss tracks, then you have people with fancy degrees basically writing diss tracks of each other, but couched in this PR language, because of course you have to have all the PR language. And of course I was reading lawyer speak earlier today because I was reading Blake Anderson's lawsuit. Because of the what was going on today, and it's just all these different phrases and whatnot. It's like, do I have to learn lawyer speak now in addition to PR speak? I'm already almost fluent in PR speak. Do I got to learn lawyer speak too?
Yeah, but it's the latest salvo between Grand Canyon, the West Coast Conference, what's going on with the Mountain West Conference. And again, another day goes by, and the Pac-12 is still searching for that 8th football member school, and trying to get their own media rights package kind of figured out that can provide a little more concrete justification for somebody leaving the conference they're already affiliated with.
Do you think they're still searching, or do you think they're sitting on it?
Part of me thinks that
I wouldn't say searching. It's more working on convincing.
Yeah, I think they have the schools identified. I think, and those schools know who they are, and they know what some of the discussion. They're just waiting. I need you. This is what they're telling the Pac-12. I need you to give me a hard number. I need to know what I'm going to get if I'm going to make this move and exit my current situation. And it was the Memphis, was it the president or the AD? This several months ago saying we never got a really good offer from the Pac-12. But he kind of made it it was a little bit laughable at first. Like the Pac-12 really didn't do a very good job of making its pitch to Memphis. But he also made it clear the door's not closed.
Yeah, that was the weird part, is he kind of verbally left the door open.
Yes.
Which is weird for, I think it was the AD, I'm pretty sure. It's weird that he wasn't running back to the AAC. He was like, we're still open, guys.
Yeah, if you can give us something a little more concrete, maybe we can have a further discussion.
Doing negotiations through the media.
Maybe it didn't go as well for Memphis as they thought. Maybe they thought they could get a little bit better, and that was kind of their shot across the bow. But the Pac-12, they're really not, playing that, press release game or anything like the interviews. So it'd be interesting to see when this is all said and done, if they just had an ace up their sleeve and they were waiting to play it at the right time to just make massive impact.
It's kind of what they did to the Mountain West. They were just like, it didn't go smoothly, but they were just like, well, we're just going to do what we're going to do.
Yeah, their biggest mistake was not getting to that full 8 right out of the gate.
Yeah.
And saying, boom, this is what we're going to do. Mountain West would not have time and money to pivot and try to circle their wagons if they could have just got those 6 teams right away. Then totally different playing field for them to even add additional teams to them to grow beyond 8.
All right, we got to take a break. We're coming up against a break, so we'll hit that, and then we'll come back, finish up the show, talking high school basketball. A couple of games today, ones to pay attention to in Region 11. So we'll talk about that next here on the Full Court Press.
Hi, I'm Jay Broadbent with Alpine Home Medical. I'd like to invite you to learn more about us. Since 1997, we've been Utah's premier one-stop shop for home medical equipment. What sets us apart at Alpine Home Medical is the superior level of customer service. We provide home oxygen, CPAPs, wheelchairs, scooters, breast pumps, and so much more. Come on down and get to know us.
Alpine Home Medical, we bring wellness home.
Visit alpinehomemedical.com.
Express your love for her this Christmas by presenting a piece of diamond jewelry from S.A. Needham Jewelers. Diamond jewelry makes a woman feel cherished. A pair of beautiful diamond earrings will add to the sparkle in her eyes. Adorned in diamond earrings, she'll feel elegant and appreciated. Choose from a large selection of quality diamond earrings, all specially priced for the holidays. With diamonds direct from Antwerp, Belgium, we offer our integrity price guarantee. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 to 7. S.A. Needham Jewelers, middle of the block, at the sign of the clock.
When it comes to home care, it's important to know you have a choice. If you or a loved one is in need of hospice or home health services, remember that Primrose Home Care and Hospice believes in treating the patient as well as the problem. We work directly with you and your doctor to create a health plan that's catered to your needs. Our team is devoted to providing options in the freedom and safety of your own home. Visit us at primrosecare.com or call to schedule a free consultation. Primrose Home Care and Hospice, your local hospice and home health provider since 2006.
Northern Utah and Southern Idaho's home for sports. It's the Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Final segment here on the Full Court Press. Really just wanted to keep listening to this and whistling along.
It's kind of a very nice Friday vibe. Oh, yeah. Here we go.
Really get into it.
All right.
That's we want to take a moment to say thank you to our customers, farmers.
There was an extra commercial in there that apparently sorry, Cash Equipment.
We'll get them on the other side.
Friday. It's Friday.
Go visit Cash Equipment and tell them we sent you.
There you go. A couple of ball games tonight. We got high school hoops, Green Canyon, and Box Elder. A regional game going on. Actually, it starts at 6. It's an earlier than normal tip-off. Green Canyon off to a strong start. Really dynamic player, and for the Wolves. And then Mountain Crest, they're hosting Morgan tonight at 7. So if you want to tune in or watch that Green Canyon Box Elder game, it's on CashValleyDaily.com. Video streaming there. It'll also be on our sister station, 100.9 Light FM.
There you go. Yeah, very, very dynamic Green Canyon team. And it's interesting where this season was kind of poised to be the season where every team is kind of figuring out what they have. Like after, it seemed like every team last year had like a collection of like 2 or 3 year starters, these like star players. Because a lot of times in high school, it can just be cycling through like you're playing mostly seniors, and then the juniors don't play a ton, and the sophomores don't play at all, and then they just kind of cycle through. You can see that a lot, especially at the lower levels of high school, where it's just, the seniors play the most, and then every team is just cycling through guys who start for one whole year, and that's their year to shine. But everyone seemed like they had these 2 or 3 year starters. And everyone just like last year, everyone was peaking at like the exact same time. And everyone had these star players. Everyone had these excellent guys. They're all just going up against each other. It was like this brutal fight through region play last year. Ridgeline ends up coming out on top somehow. I think, did they go undefeated or close to it in region play last year? Like, it was almost a miracle they had as good a record as they did. And it showed how good they were last year. That they did as well as they did, despite what was a very tough region. But everyone is kind of trying to figure, okay, what does everyone have? Who are a lot of these juniors, most of whom weren't getting as much playing time last year? They're now all stepping in to be the guys of Region 11. But it turns out Green Cane's the top of the heap, partly because they had a kid move in.
Yeah.
Assistant coach of one of the women's basketball coaches, excuse me. Jude Hay just dominating, averaging like 25 a game, 4 or 5 rebounds a game, 2-time prep player of the week here for Cache Valley Media Group.
Very dynamic player.
Yeah, so he's kind of leading Green Canyon too. They're doing fine. Everyone else is mostly figuring out what they are. Of course, Ridgeline, they're still undefeated too, so they're doing all right.
The other game tonight that we mentioned, Mountain Crest and Morgan. Video streaming on CacheValleyDaily.com. Tips off at 7. Also on 107.7 FM if you want to listen to that one. Looking at, excuse me, again, the Mustangs have, all these teams are having young seasons so far. They've had some tournaments. They're still trying to figure out their rosters a little bit. But for the Mustangs, again, this is a team with Coach Smith. You were talking about the Utah State Aggies and the UNLV Rebels. It was the old water bomb days. That was Coach Con Smith. This is his boy that's coaching the Mountain Crest Mustangs now. Mountain Crest still trying to find their way a little bit. Kind of had a bit of a struggle here getting things started for this season. So see what happens tonight against Morgan.
At 2-4, and they're one of those teams that actually had a decent amount of returning production. Probably the 2 teams that I think returned the most were Skyview and Mountain Crest. Green Canyon returned a couple of guys. Mountain Crest trying to put it together. They've got some good players, but Morgan, a tough team. I got a chance to watch them as they took on Logan, ended up pulling away in the second half. They've got some pretty solid players on that Morgan team, some pretty good shooters and some good bigs. So an all-around team from Morgan coming up to take on Mountain Crest. So it should make for a really tough game.
Yeah. Yeah, so hopefully the Mustangs can get their feet underneath them a little bit. Region play begins next week. Next Friday, we got region action. So the non-conference or the non-region stuff that these teams are working through, they'll get a few more games before they get into region play. And then the first RPI rankings, those come out next Wednesday. So, the last few chances to improve your RPI before you get into region play are this week and early next.
And one thing I noticed about Box Elder, who's playing Green Canyon tonight, Box Elder is playing all but one team in Region 11.
Oh, really?
They play everyone.
Tour through Region 11.
Yeah, everyone except Ridgeline. They played Logan, Bear River, and Skyview, and they have yet to play Green Canyon, Mountain Crest, and Westfield. In fact, they played them 3 in a row in Region 11 in late November, early December, and they're playing 3 in a row here in mid-December. They're going to play Westfield after the Christmas break, but kind of interesting there.
Yeah. So got some couple high school basketball games on tonight. Check it out on CacheValleyDaily.com if you want to watch them.
All right, that'll do it for us today. Thank you so much for listening here on the Full Court Press. Make sure to tune in next week. We'll recap Utah State after their hopefully win over South Florida.
The home for Sports Talk Radio. KLGN Logan, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.